back, y'all. My name is AJ. I'm here to yap about Higurashi when they cry Kai. Chapter 8, Matsuribayashi. I am once again joined by my straight man Griffin. Say hello, Griffin.
Hi.
Hi. Last time, Disney characters plus chemicals plus Promised Neverland equals what the fuck. This time, Takano drinks coffee. Nothing else happens.
はい、バンケットより後方。スピーチあと一人で乾杯に入ります。準備できてるね。
後方 OK です。内部全然聞こえないんで、スピーチが終わるタイミングでコールをお願いします。
いいかい。各宅にビ
10 bottles
ール
of
は
beer
10本ずつだ
table,
よ。
10
ちゃん
bottles
と自分
of
の縄張
beer.
りに
Take
スムー
one
ズに
down,
運ん
pass
で
it
ね。
around. 9 bottles of beer on the table. Bow ties, dress smiling bow ties. Pull a bottle of beer cans, preparing for the toast. They're waiting for the queue to serve drinks while listening to the intercom. In a normal party, they could put bottles of beer at the table ahead of time, but they would lecture before the party, then they couldn't. Guests don't mind sushi going dry due to a long speech, but they don't like seeing their tables get wet with condensations from the bottles of beer. More than anything, they simply don't want to drink warm beer. This way beer had to be served right before a toast. I don't need to know this factoid, Ryukishi. Each before a toast, usually a long one. Especially a big party like this. There's a lot of guests that give speeches, so it's extremely difficult. You know, what to serve. Sitting outside the banquet room. You know, drinking warm beer instead. There were several dozen tables with white cloths in the banquet room. Approximately people were sitting at each table, and there was at least a few hundred people in the room. The banquet room was filled with excitement. There were many plates with many different kinds of foods on the table. That's kind of how banquets work, yes! Sushi, sashimi, a fruit platter. Also along the wall, the cook's ready to serve fresh sashimi. Okay, can I come to this banquet? But men and gentlemen, and clearly notable people in various different fields. The huge and beautiful chandelier above them clearly indicated this hotel held a good status for these famous people. You know, this is called a visual novel. You show me a black screen. Let me just make a toast. Usually people don't like such long speeches. Especially before it's toast. But the guests occasionally shouted, yes, yes, it gave some loud applause, filling the room with their favor. Well, maybe fervor was a pleasant way to put it. Probably more accurate to say their excitement was bizarre.
大体ですね。自分の国の国旗に敬意を示すなという教育をしている国が世界中のどこにあるというんですか。ないよ。そんな国はどこにもない。日本だけなんです。そんなおかしい教育をしているのは。
そうだそうだ。
国旗や国家を強制されることは心の自由への強制？バカ言っちゃいけない。いいですか？国旗や国家を愛するというのはですね、自然に湧いてくるもんなんです。自分を知り、郷土を知り、歴史や国家を学ぶ。そうしていく中で自然に自らが日本人であることを自覚していき、日本社会の一員を担う国民としての役割を理解していく。その結果、自然と湧いてくるのが国を愛するという心なんです。ところが反日教師どもはそれを軍国主義の洗脳だとこう言っている。バカ言っちゃいけない。そう言ってる連中がやってることは何ですか？これから日本を背負っていく子供たちに反日妄想をすり込み、自虐教育で洗脳している。日本は恥ずべき国で、貴様らはその国に生まれた恥ずべき人間であると国家をないがしろにし、自分の生まれた国を否定せよと、そんなことを吹き込んでいるわけです。無垢な子供たちはそれをそのまま鵜呑みにし、何の裏付けもなく信じてしまう。そりゃあ当たり前です。学校は学ぶところなんですよ。そこで教師がそうだと教えれば、子供たちは何の疑いもなく信じるんです。こんな卑劣な話がありますか？今こそ日本の教育を私たちは体を張って守らなければならない時なのです。
Sound of applause filled the banquet room. All the gentlemen agreed and expressed that they felt the same way by cheering him on. After that, the gentleman wearing a cloth sash approached the stage. Hall welcomed him on the stage with another round of thunderous applause. Rousing scene from popular drama series played as he took the seat, was highly unnecessary. Nobody told me life was gonna be this way.
夕刻の同志丸山〇〇くんを皆さんにご紹介いたします。彼丸山くんは長年前知事の下で知事室長を務め、その懐刀として長いこと県政を支えてまいりました。この度前知事が高齢により勇退を決意され、その後任として指名されたのがここにいる丸山くんなのであります。
私の県にも実に悔しいことに反日教師が何人もおります。教育の自由、心の自由などと歌いながら子供たちに反日教育をシャーシャーと強いている。正しい歴史を伝えず、連中お得意の捏造と歪曲で日本は悪かったの一点張り。大東亜共栄圏の真の意味やアジアを白人支配から解放しようとアジア各国のために血を流してくださった勇士たちのことは伝えようともしない。戦前どれだけのアジアの国が白人植民地であったか、そして日本がアジア解放に立ち上がり戦後どれだけの国が自治を回復したか、その意味すらも伝えようともしない。情けない。そんな連中が真剣に教育を考える教師たちの中に混じり込み、神聖な学者を汚し続けていることにはもう我慢がなりません。私丸山〇〇は県知事に就任し、そういったクズのもを全て通用し、県の教育を正し日本の将来を担うことができる健全な若者たちを育てることができる環境を取り戻すことで日本再生100年の経営の礎を築いていく覚悟であります。
彼丸山〇〇くんは来年の県知事選挙に立候補いたします。どうか皆さん温かい応援とみなぎるお力で彼丸山〇〇くんをどうか男にしてやってください。
丸山〇〇、日本の教育を正してまいります。どうかよろしくお願いいたします。
In the banquet room filled with applause. The man was receiving a standing ovation. You need to explain a bit about this banquet before you misunderstand. You probably should have started with that. It wasn't a conference of political associations or a lecture by political candidate. It was hard to believe that this was nothing more than a meeting of college alumni association. No, I can believe that. I can totally believe that. Whether elementary school, junior high school to college. Once you graduate from one of those, you don't belong to an organization of the alumni. You've received invitations for unions when you talk about good old days. However, there are many different types of such organizations. Some are simple, and some are united with much tighter bonds. Now, once the organization becomes united with those tight bonds, it's no longer a simple organization of alumni. Rather, it becomes a distinct faction known as the Alma Mater clique. Japanese society is traditional for graduates to form tighter bonds to go beyond their level of organization. Also, the more superior the alma mater, the stronger the tendency beholds true. The Imperial University, some of the best university in the country, is famous for the deep bonds from its graduates. Why do superior people like to bond? It's because they're taking pride in being superior. Well, more than that, maintaining connections is the most significant reason. All Imperial University graduates are elites that are in their respected fields. They're likely to succeed and become important people. When they do, the unity of the Alumni Association gains immeasurable meaning. In fact, even today, the Imperial University graduates maintains their tight academic clique, and they hold great influence throughout many different fields. They're interactive with other universities as well, so the graduates' bonds are extremely tight and even today. Additionally, while Imperial University usually refers to the University of Tokyo, sometimes this means all 7 major universities in Japan. They're located in Tokyo, Kyoto, Tokuho, Kyoshi, Hokkaido, Osaka, and Nagoya. They're all great schools. There happens to be an organization of alumni that includes all those 7 universities. The elderly gentleman's banquet room were each one from those organizations. However, not every graduate would get an invitation here automatically. The Society of Select Gentlemen. In order to become a member, one must fulfill several conditions, such as recommendation from an existing member, contribution to society, possession of status, and so forth. Therefore, all the members are important people from different fields, and obviously the power of this organization is of a political nature. But then there's one more and very important criterion one has to meet to join. Strong patriotism. A heart that long contributes to Japan is rebirth. As a result, this organization became extremely nationalistic. Upon the stage, the candidate for the prefectural governorship was talking passionately. Among those elderly gentlemen crowd, Takano can be found. Takano seems to use this kind of conference and seemed unsurprised at anything that was said. But I saw him, she looked rather fed up with it. As she was in attendance, she must be one of their members. Which meant she possessed not only extremely academic background, but the older gentleman here has acknowledged her equivalent to contributions to society, and that she possessed strong patriotism. However, her academic background was the only qualification she had met to join. She was only able to join as a special case because of her connections. She didn't even hold prejudiced ideas like the other members did. She just had a god complex. So why was she here today? For the same reason the man giving up the speech on stage. The man on stage didn't actually have prejudiced ideas, much like Takano. He only prepared a speech that even the guests would like. Politicians only want votes. Each and every person has a vote, but appealing to each one of them takes too long. So the most efficient way is to deal with the organization with a unified idea and a unified will. The words this man was giving the speech so he can garner support from those powerful people. The elderly gentlemen in the banquet room will do their best to support him, and he appears to share their ideals. They can offer many different kinds of expenses, short support and assistance. Religious degree, I might add. If today's events go in the same way, the organization would likely decide to officially support him. It will probably give him a great deal of financial aid. They assist him in different ways as well. Of course, the man on the stage won't be the only one gaining something. When he wins the election and becomes government the next year, the organization will welcome the government as a new member and gain even more political influence. And eventually the organization will become so powerful that nobody can ignore it. Those of you reading this now probably get the sense that no mere alumni association. You'd be absolutely right. After reaching this level, they were a fine syndicate. No, they would be a secret society if the group wasn't so open about its activities. Now I'm sure some of your readers are brushing this off, but thinking there's no way such a sufficient organization could exist in Japan. Yes, yeah, you told me about it last chapter. But explain it's entirely true. There's several such influential groups and organizations in our society, and that's the end they hold powerful political clout and influence on national policies. Some are alma mater cliques like the one I've described above. Others are scientific societies serving different parties, industrial groups, adversarial committees, religious organizations, community service groups, and so forth. Oh, they have right wings and left wings, the hawk and the dove. I won't go listening to specific names here, because I'll get shot. You probably read them every now and then in your average newspaper. In Japan, the term for such forces aren't very common. Most of your readers probably think of suspicious organizations wearing white hoods when you hear the phrase secret society and laugh it off. Well, unfortunately, that's a huge mistake. In America, with its far more territory and citizens, there were way more groups like that. And they possess such vast influence that ignoring them is impossible. So the terms they use for forces apply to the scale on this syndicate. Sometimes people say that groups have more power than the White House and they refer to it as the shadow government. Even here in Japan, we had a shadow government before the war, or Zaibatsu. We lost the war, the GHQ dismantled those blocks, and before the years have passed since then. So guaranteed recovery hasn't given birth to another shadow government, given how good a collusion, groundwork, and backroom deals. Mio Takano, in fact, was attending conferences of such shadow government. That's a lot of yapping. Might be their guest house at a huge golf course. There were no golfers in sight, but appearances, that must be it. Appearances can be deceiving. This wasn't a golf course, but a huge backyard. The guest house was in fact a very stylish mansion. Normal people wouldn't be surprised to learn this was a private residence. The interior of the building was as lavish as the exterior. There were beautiful carpets on every floor. Expensive looking decorations on the wall and expensive looking bottles of alcohol on the shelves. That's the kind of room Takano was in. There was a knock at the door, an old man in a wheelchair and a young woman pushed it in and entered. Takano stood to bow. The old man stopped her by raising his right hand.
いい畳んでも。久しぶりだの。いつでも遊びに来なさいと言っとるのに。
そのお言葉だけで光栄ですわ、小泉先生。
The man sat down on the sofa with assistance from the woman. He was very old. His face was covered in wrinkles. He could hardly do anything on his own. Even so, he still had a great deal of power and influence.
相変わらずお盛んですわね。首筋、口紅がついておりますわよ。
ほっ、それ本当かね。やれやれ、これはお恥ずかしいの。
There's no lipstick on his neck. The woman who was helping him with his wheelchair was too beautiful to be a mere helper, so Takano suspected something. It turned out her guess was correct. Though he was told that he could die the next day, he wanted to stay sexually active until the end.
Okay.
Don't put that. I don't need to know this information, Takano. Get that out of my head.
いつまでも小さいと思っとったらいつの間にの。
ご冗談を。本当にそう思われていたら、私のお尻を撫でようなんてなさいませんわ。
おい先短い年寄りに触らせても減るもんではないに。
私よりももっと柔らかいお尻を散々撫でておいでのくせに。
Talking to the old man enjoyed a tasteless conversation. They had clearly known each other a long time, were very close. The young woman came back to serve tea. Left, the old man started to speak.
しかし、みおちゃんは本当に立派な子だの。高野くんもこれほど立派に育ってくれて、きっとあの世で鼻高々だろうな。
そうであればいいのですが、祖父の偉業には私など足元にも及びません。
高野くんもいろいろと運がなかった。時代にも恵まれんかった。もし何もない時代に研究をしておったなら、あんたに引き継がせることもなく見事研究を完成させておっただろうの。
ですが、そういう時代だったからこそ、皮肉にも祖父はひなみ沢症候群の存在に気づくことができました。
The world today is in a nuclear era. America and the Soviet Union glare at each other with mounds of nuclear stockpiles. It takes nukes to have authority as a major power. Okay, I can see why this line might have gone cut. Like, who cares about the Cold War anymore? Our nukes are 3 anti-nuclear principles. In this age, we are now a nation without nukes. How deplorable. In the middle of the 20th century, despite rising tensions between the East and West, there was a temporary peace known as the Cold War, brought by a balance of nuclear weapons. I know what the Cold War is, Kirikishi! I'm not that stupid! The securing the predominance of nuclear weapons bound the world with nuclear non-proliferation treaties, internally banning non-nuclear nations on the world stage. For Japan to become a nation that can compete with the world, it must develop nuclear arms, or something as powerful. That's what some people believed, at least. Realistically, Japan will never arm itself with nuclear weapons. I know. The citizens wouldn't accept it. Even if the government ignored their opinions, they armed with nuclear weapons, it wouldn't work. By banning nuclear weaponry, Japan gained deterrent power to the United States. Though some people thought the only way for Japan to become equal to the United States is to get nuclear arms of their own. But you know what's better than nuclear weapons? Biological warfare! Because what could possibly go wrong with that? Talking to the old man discussed the balance of nuclear power in the world. Eventually, the sound of the cuckoo clock reminded them to return to the main subject at hand. The old man pointed to the attached case that had been sitting next to Takano. Takano nodded, opened it, and removed the contents. There were brand new bills packed in. How much was actually in there? A bundle of brand new million yens is 1 centimeter, so there must have been at least enough to make up 8 digits. There were also 2 more attached cases by her side. However, neither Takano nor old man was surprised at all. Takano closed the attached case and bowed. Patache?
ありがとうございます、先生。このご恩は忘れません。
金は人生の長い若者が持つべきだの。年寄りがあの世まで持っていくもんじゃない。金はあるだけものを言うが、現金はさらにものを言う。大事に使いなさい。
もちろんですわ。祖父の夢を実現するためだけに使います。
高野くんが羨ましいの。 良いお孫さんを持たれた。きっとあの世であんたを自慢しているだろうの。
まだ自慢されるようなことは何もしていません。祖父の研究を完成させた時初めて私は祖父に褒めてもらえる資格が得られるのだと思います。
本当に羨ましい。うちのせがれたちは全然ダメだ。金儲けのことしか頭にない。金は儲けてからが
You
大
said that,
切
then
だ。
Damara.
ダメだ。
その儲けた金でお国のために何を貢献できるかが大切なんだ。それこそが今日まで自分を育んでくれたお国へのご恩返しっちゅうもんなんだがの。
あら、たくさんの愛人たちに気前よくおごるのもお国へのご恩返しなんですの。
もちろんだとも。あいつらが買い物をすれば金は巡ってお国に戻る。金は天下の回り物だ。
However, those lovers probably end up buying some foreign goods. Things probably don't work quite the way this old man think they do. Takano chuckled to herself.
だが女どもにばらまく金とミオちゃんに託す金は意味が全く違う。
存じております。
ミオちゃんは今日までよく頑張ってきた。礼を尽くし大勢の人たちの信用と支持を取り付けた。今だから話すが、春山くんも望月くんも最初は君のことを若すぎると批判的だったんだがね。だから私もミオちゃんのその努力を認めてその金を託すんだ。はい。そしてな、その金を私が託すつうことはの、私がミオちゃんを高野くんの研究の正式な後継者だと認めたということなんだ。
ありがとうございます。私ごとき若輩に委ねてくださったことに深く感謝いたします。
いやいや、これは高野くんと君の研究だ。彼もミオちゃん以外が引き継ぐことを望まなかっただろうの。だからミオちゃんがここまで上り詰めたおかげで他の年寄りたちをより説得しやすかったわけだ。
祖父の完成できなかった研究を私が完成させることだけが私ができる祖父への唯一の恩返しですから、そのために求められる努力ならばいといません。
Takano smiled as he remembered everything she had to go through to get to this point. Went without saying, but the old men around Takano saw someone from their grandfather's, grandchildren's generation, or maybe even younger. Just how much trouble did Takano have to endure in order to gain this trust with this large generation gap? It was hard to describe those who could imagine her trouble. But Takano earned it. She gathered allies, drove away enemies, garnered support, and forced them to recognize her. She spent a long time establishing trust and rising to the status the old men would welcome, which was all the more reason this meeting was a reward for her many days of hardship. Now that she officially had a powerful, influential backing her, she could spread her wings and see the completion of her grandfather's unfinished research.
さて、高野くんの研究を正式に引き継ぐことになったなら、ミオちゃんにも話しておかなきゃならんことがある。
何でしょう。伺います。
The man paused, pulled an expensive cigarette from the cigarette holder on the table. Takano lit it up for him. She didn't smoke herself, but knowing that the old man did, she kept a lighter in her pocket. The constant build of little gestures like this, how she gained the trust she held today. Takano-kun noticed the Hinamazawa syndrome in Muchuri, not Japan. Yes, according to my grandfather's journal, around 1940, many soldiers sent from Hinamazawa to Kwangtu Army expressed terminal symptoms, which led them to surmise an unknown infectious parasite dwelled within Hinamazawa. And in the harsh conditions of war, people sometimes lose their minds. In the conditions, those who were sent far off in the battlefield from Hinamazawa spent their days under duress, and occasionally they exhibited terminal symptoms, hallucinated and caused twisted incidents. Yet all that occurred in the extensive chaos of the battlefield. Every incident was handled separately, and no one suspected was the underlying cause. Shut up. Okay, lost
当
control.
時高野君は軍医少佐として海外に派兵されていて、現地の貿易研究所で各種伝染病の予防対策について研究していた。そんな中で偶然いくつかの錯乱事件が全て同じ出身地の兵士によって起こされていることを知った。高野君は ひなみ沢出身者に特有の症状ではないかと仮定し、個人的にこの研究を始めたのだ。そしてひなみ沢出身の兵士を研究所勤務にして集め、いろいろと調査した。そしてひなみ沢独特のお社様信仰の存在を知り、得意な性質を持つ未知の疾病の存在を確信したのだ。
We wonder how conservative these symptoms were caused by unusual parasites. Beginning of the 20th century, German doctors proved that some unknown disease was caused by bacteria and parasites. At the time, it was too far of a jump to assume that unknown pathogens could be behind unknown diseases. For instance, in modern times, it's been revealed that the bray is caused by vitamin B1 deficiency. The start of the 20th century, mainly loudly proclaimed it will work as an unidentified pathogen.
はい。祖父はその研究が軍にとって価値のあるものになるのではないかと予想し、予算を求めましたが、一生に付されたとか。
The researcher grandfather was very talented and passionate, but when it came to gaining the aid of political powers, he simply struck out. Hinamizawa syndrome. No, the possible existence of a parasite that infected the human brain and controlled emotions. Even though he made the remarkable achievement of discovering a mystery no one had explained before him. He was unable to convince others of that achievement and spent his life alone, unable to garner support and unable to achieve proper recognition for his achievement. Independent research has its limits. The talented people, funding, and backup. A research project can only be successful as the things are present. Takano noticed her grandfather's mistake, and that's why she did everything she could to obtain all that.
当時の上層部は即効性でしかも普遍性の高い治療薬を期待していた。高野君の研究は非常に興味深いものではあっても、当時の軍には期待されなかったということだの。
ですが、先生は唯一祖父の研究に理解を示してくれたと聞いています。祖父は先生のことを無二の親友と記していました。
高野君とは同郷だった。同じ蕎麦屋を知る人間と遠方の戦地で会えるというのは奇跡的なことだったの。彼とは年は離れていたが、私たちは固い友情で結ばれていたのだ。だから高野君からはよく話をされたの。画期的な研究になるに違いない。本格的な研究のために予算をつけられるよう根回ししてほしいと何度も相談を受けた。
祖父の手記にも先生がいろいろと各方面に掛け合ってくださったことが記されています。結局祖父の研究が認められることはありませんでしたが、先生だけが理解者でいてくれたことはきっと存命中大きな心の支えになっていたものと思います。
だが結局は何の力にもなれんかった。だから高野君にしてやれなかった協力を美桜ちゃんにするんだ。美桜ちゃんに協力するのは高野君に対する私の罪滅ぼしでもある。
ありがとうございます。
Sumi Horoboshi!
祖父は良い親友に恵まれたと思っています。軍上層部に先生のように理解を示してくれる方が少しでもいてくれたなら、祖父の人生はもっと違ったものになっていたかもしれないと思うと、とても悔しく思います。
The old man closed his eyes, paused for a moment. Shortly after that, he looked into the distance and spoke.
実はな、真実はそうではない。上層部は高野君の発見に少なからず関心を持っていたのだ。
え、それは初耳です。でもそれならなぜ祖父の研究を認めなかったのですか？
ある事情により高野君にひなみ沢症候群を研究させたくない都合ができたのだ。その理由は私と一部の高級将校しか知らん。私を除き全員が他界した今、高野君の後を継ぐ美桜ちゃんには話しておこうと思う。
研究させたくない都合とは何ですか
Takano believed unto this day her grandfather's research was ridiculed by everyone, which was sorry she never gained any recognition. Her grandfather asked the military for funding so he could uncover the secret of Higurashi syndrome during the war. But just like the old man had said earlier, the military wanted an instant acting weapon. That's why they weren't interested in the research. That's what she had believed. But as it turned out, the military had actually shown an interest after all. Before we go on, he explained about the Quinton army and military at the time. They might cut this information from later on, so don't really worry about it too much, Takano. Okay. I don't know why. Why would you preface a sentence like that? So yes, it's a Manchudo. The divided advanced terror Soviet Union advanced. Oh my God, Scriptman, there's a lot of cut dialogue.
I know, right?
Am I crazy? Did we not have a setting like?
There's like a censorship setting, yeah. You have it on 2. That's the basic one.
Yeah, I've always had it on 2. Cause like censorship. What does it say? Sets the script level censorship. This setting exists because the voices are taken from the censored console version of the games. Have no voice access to the PC end version. Remember default level 2, the most balanced option. Use this option only copyright. Use this option only copyright changes into Windows and a few words will be changed. 5. Use voice lines PS3 script as much as possible. 2. Default balance. Original script with voices fits. Fully uncensored, but must censored. I don't. I mean, this is just kind of getting a little ridiculous at this point. How much it's been. What happens? Okay. What happens if I. Like, let's save the video game first. And then let's go. I could have just pressed the hotkey button, but I was too lazy. If I press that, what happens now? Nothing. Gods of the Russia-Japan War. History books have said that Japan won the Russia-Japan War, but was actually joined in a peace treaty signed at Portsmouth. Both sides simply set aside their fears after mutually exhausting their forces. It was like Russia catapulted and offered a complete surrender. So Yukishi's like, no, AJ, you're gonna sit down and you're gonna learn Japanese war history. I'm like, yes, Yukishi-san. The Russian Empire was overthrown by a revolution. Japan was able to shake the threats that the new Soviet Union would advance. According to history books, Japan went south. They signed the Soviet-Japanese Neutrality Pact and abandoned the Northern Advance. As a result, when the Great Patriotic War began, the Soviet Union was able to respond to the pressure on the German front by pouring in their eastern forces. So the Germans had managed to lay siege to Moscow, the Soviets launched a massive counteroffensive that reversed the tide of the war. Even with the Soviet-Japanese Neutrality Pact, the Soviets could tell Japan would attack them at some point. Because of that threat, the Soviets had to leave some forces in the Far East, and they weren't able to devote enough troops to the German front. For starters, the Soviets had forged German-Soviet for non-aggression pacts in 2. Yet Germany broke the treaty and attacked the Soviet. It was an entire fucking mess over there, alright? Make matters worse, Japan and Germany have forged a military alliance, and so did Italy, but who cares about Italy? Soviets naturally couldn't trust Japan to hold
They're not important. Not like they're gonna come up again.
Ironically, you can't say that! No, I'm cutting that out! Cutting that out! Cutting that out!
Everyone's gonna be like, what the fuck?
No, that's cutting. That's fuck, Griffin. I have to go all the way in here and check for that. I hope you're happy now.
Yes.
Watch it play out. They believe that we did landscape would be after Germany had conquered Moscow. However, the plan was to expose storage, and the Soviets transferred their heavy tanks and east to the German front. You're lucky I find war history somewhat interesting, Ryukishi. That's why I'm not pressing the enter button. Battle of Kursk. It was a turning point in history, huh? During the Cold War, the Soviet Union was recognized as a global power. By at least 1940, the Kwantong Army... am I saying that right? The Kwantong? The Kwantong Army... The... The Kwantong Army... Kwantong Army... Is this a Soviet army? Is that what it's called? Like, who are the Kwantong... I have Google.
There you go.
This is what you've made me done, Ryukishi.
Maybe Google war facts.
The Kwangtung Army was a general army of the Imperial Japanese Army from 1919 to 1945. The Kwangtung was formed in 1906 as a security force of the Kwangtung Lease territory in South Murichen. Was the general army of the Imperial Japanese Army. Ryukishi, my man. You like war. I get it. And so they took the Soviet Union government lightly, assuming it would be stable after overthrowing the US. Wasn't like Russia basically about to end the war with Japan, but then America was like, nah, we need to nuke them. And Russia was like, I don't think you need to do that. It's like, yeah, we need to. Like, it's really, really fine. We're about to take that nuke. But at the very least, until
I don't know.
No hand incident. The Kwangtung Army.
I actually do not know.
Yeah. Well, either way, the point is, we did not need those nukes to end the war. End the war was in sight. I think the issue is like Japan just refused to give up its emperor. Like that was like its like one clause it was not budging on for any sign of peace. I don't know. You know what? Who would know stuff about this? Ryukishi. So middle of the night on July 7th. Hey, that's tomorrow! The Chinese army fired on Japan army in training, and they engaged in combat. This triggered the long Sino-Japanese War. Yes, according to historical records, that incident triggered the Sino-Japanese War. But, with opinions divided over Nancy's north and south, the army was equally divided in a full-scale confrontation with China. This will be on the test. I hope all of you are studying. No, in fact, received orders from General Staff Headquarters, so the matter for the infantry was much bigger. So this morning, Northern advanced northward instead of the Battle of Lugu Bridge quietly, insisting the conflict with China pointless in the light of the anti-Soviet strategy. However, those on the mainland supporting the Southern advance used the incident as a cause to dispatch more troops to China. Enacted hard policies against China, and thus the Marco Polo Bridge incident became... Wait, that's what it's called?
The what?
The Marco Polo Bridge. The incident, Japan greatly reversed the Soviet strategy. They signed the Japanese Neutrality Pact and secured the route for the Southern advance. The Sino-Japanese War got worse and worse. If the Marco Polo Bridge incident hadn't happened, it's possible that history would have gone very differently.
I gotta ask, AJ, you do know who Marco Polo was, right?
I know he was a person.
Okay, just make sure.
I just forgot what he did. I knew at one point. And also, I'm sorry, but I can't take it seriously.
That's understandable.
Marco.
China trade? Chinese trade threats? I don't know.
South actually didn't get a chance to military authorities, but it kept restraining the Soviet Union and the Soviets would have to divide their forces between East and West. And maybe Germany could have invaded Moscow. Japan could have gone to Siberia. The map could have been very different today. Germany wouldn't necessarily have won the war if they succeeded in taking Moscow. England was keeping its strength to the side of the Dover Strait after all, and the United States was poised to enter the conflict. Besides, Napoleon once occupied Moscow. But in the end, he couldn't beat their winter, had to withdraw. It's one of those ifs. The Axis might have won the war. Yes, it's possible the gunshot off the Marco Polo Bridge incident changed the tide of history. Both sides had different appearance who fired the shot, right? According to the Japanese side, a Chinese soldier fired a shot at a Japanese soldier who got too close to the Chinese camp. However, the Chinese side claimed the shot was a conspiracy invented by the Japanese military. But a shot was fired. Even though nobody knew who actually pulled the trigger, it sparked a Sino-Japanese war. Yes. That's what the history books say. But Koizumi-sensei, what does this have to do with anything we're talking about? The Marco Polo Bridge incident. A shot was fired at a unit that was training in the middle of the night. Everyone was summoned for a roll call. I'm half tempted to make a fucking quiz out of this episode and like give it to people who watch it. Alright, you have 5 minutes. This is not open notes. By the way, did you know that a soldier was from Hinawazawa? I don't think that's... eh? Really? Are we allowed to say that? Are we allowed to change history like that? Soldiers Hinawazawa gets only fall into a deranged state. Maybe that's why this whole section got censored. Fact from Hinawazawa. Now, what about the first shot fired? I don't know the truth, but I think it's possible that the soldier was in terminal stage Hinawazawa syndrome and fired the shot. That soldier was killed in the incident. Since there was no record of it, nobody knows exactly how he died. The Japanese side claimed the Chinese army had fired them and negotiated with that in mind. Just a scant few days after the incident, Japan demanded apologies from the Chinese, as it showed the force dispatched 3 divisions of reinforcements. The Chinese side was of course opposed to that. The situation escalated at once. The research at Hinawazawa syndrome continued. The higher ups thought it would negatively influence the Japanese army's claims. So in order to avoid the risk of traversing that political gray zone, they rejected Takano-kun's research.
そのためこの時代になってもなお祖父の研究が
Ah, Takano, you found your voice again!
そうだ。
The war is over now, but there's some conflicts here. Okay, it looks like, for whatever reason, the PS2 version did not like having the conversation that Hinawazawa syndrome.
That might have been actually a Sony restriction, who knows?
Yeah, I could understand, like, maybe we shouldn't bring up this more, and B, like, I know some people get a little iffy when you go, like, Oh, this major event in history actually was caused by this fictional thing.
根回しをしておったのは
But hey, what? I learned something new about Japanese history.
私も
I did
高
not
野君
agree
に
with
協
reading
力
that.
しないよう
My
長
voice
く
hurts
釘を
though.
刺されておった
Takano tried to remain calm, but she couldn't stop herself from grimacing. Do you have anything but a grimace? Oh, reason why grandfather's research is ignored is because secret maneuver by political masterminds. Those masterminds feared it so much. Ironically, that means they acknowledge the importance of his research. Takano was saddened and frustrated, knowing by her grandfather's lonely life.
だがそういう連中は高いしもう当時を知る者は私しかおらんもし今
Look, we didn't need give China more reasons to hate us, alright? Fair enough.
私はそれを誤って全面的な協力を申し出るつもりだっただが彼はもういないだから私はミオちゃんに謝り高野君にするはずだった協力を君にしようと思っているのだ
よろしいのですか。私が南沢症候群の研究をすることで蒸し返しになるということはありませんか。
もう当時とは時代が違うそれに南沢症候群の研究には単なる風土病では済まされないものが潜んでおる研究によっては医学の名前がつくあらゆる学会がひっくり返るような大発見になるかもしれん
当時とはもう風向きが変わったということですわね。
そうだ不幸にも高野君は風向きが変わるまで存命することができなかっただが幸いミオちゃんという後継者に研究を託せただから私はこの命ある限りミオちゃんの研究を最大限応援する私は高野君に協力を約束したのにさまざまなしがらみから力になれず彼を失望させたその償いを命ある限りしていこうと思っているそれが高野君が無二の親友と呼んでくれた私のこの世に残された最後の仕事だと思っとる
先生本当にありがとうございます。
いやいい私も死ぬ前に洗いざらいを話せてすっきりしたとにかく私の目が黒いうちはミオちゃんの研究に一切の不自由はさせん何かあったらいつでも頼りなさい助力は惜しまないからの
I can imagine what kind of bond this old man and her grandfather had behind them. Anal sex! Ah! But thanks to that bond, Takano was able to gain a powerful supporter. Tears welled up in Takano's eyes as she gave an emotional look, but in her mind, she was practically dancing to promise the old man's full support. The old man and Takano both bowed their heads at the same time to show each other appreciation. Once that was done, the old man became a little more serious. After that far too preamble, he finally said what he really wanted to tell her.
そういうことだ私が言いたいのはつまり南沢症候群には歴史すらも作りかねない魔力が宿っているということだそれは日本社会すらもねじ曲げかねないそこのところをよく肝に銘じて慎重に研究をしな
Don't
さい
like use it to kill an entire town of people or something. After the party finished serving food, she bowed and left. The room was very tastefully put together, reminding the tea ceremony room. While it was sparsely decorated, it became quite a modesty has obviously gone into it. It's a very famous Japanese restaurant where many high-up officials, other important people, held secret meetings. Takano was there, accompanied by about 5 gentlemen. She was sitting slightly further away from the men. God, it's been a sausage fest for her today. Women wore an expensive double-breasted suit, told Takano not to be so nervous.
どうぞお楽に高野さん今回の件非常に興味深く読ませていただきましたこのような研究が数十年にわたり眠り続けてきたとは
ああ驚きです旧日本軍が戦時中に行っていた BC 兵器の研究はほとんどが実らず研究基礎も全て米軍に接収され何も残っていないと思っておりましたよ
この研究は軍上層部にもほとんど相手にされなかったと聞いております
なるほど故に誰にも知られずそして GHQ の追及も受けなかったというわけですねその意味においてだけは本当に幸運でした
高野先生の研究を高野さんが引き継ぐとは面白い。これも因縁ですかな。まるであなたの体を借りて個人が研究を完成させようとしているかのようです。
本当にそうかもしれませんわね。私も奇妙な因縁を感じます。
Takano adored Takano Fumi and called him grandfather, but she revealed the relationship to others. She realized it would be beneficial if people think she was involving personal feelings in continuing Takano's research. The publicly shown once exchanged with Takano Fumi, and after his death, discovers research documents with his remains and chooses to carry it on. At least that's how the story went.
それで先生方いかがでしょうか。
うん。いくつかの省庁がね、非常に強い関心を持ったよ。中川君が言うには、防衛庁の技術研究本部が強い関心を示してくれてね。研究のスポンサーを名乗り出てくれた。
おお、それは朗報じゃないですか。おめでとう高野さん。
ありがとうございます。
なんでも向こうが言うにはね。この中でアルファベットプロジェクトというのがあるらしい。高野さんはご存知ですかな？
Someone should have known about something like that. But it was very possible for these nationalists to research something dangerous without citizens knowing about it. Society forms something like a web made of connections between people. People hold hands with other people who share the same ideas and ends up knitting a net. Of course, some nets are well known, but there are also some secret ones too. So there's no way of guessing just how the men at this meeting were connected. The Society of Only Research its turret weapons for the next generation. The Alphabet Project. Because worse, it is possible to imagine what it might entail. Turret weapons. These refer to nuclear technology. Weapons are not only used to destroy enemies. However, the general idea of the turret weapons is very different. The assumption is that they won't actually be used against anyone. Nuclear weapons are largely used as a threat to prevent enemy invasion. Both the US and Soviets possess a large stockpile of nuclear arms, keeping each other in check. They will never actually use them. Because if they did, there'd be a nuclear war and both countries would be destroyed. So they're like a legendary weapon you never draw. I've always found that, like, I understand why it happens, also it's like so stupid that we created these many weapons. I don't know.
And we need dozens and hundreds of them, literally.
Literally. When A, no one's gonna fire them, and B, the moment someone does, we all damn the world.
Yeah.
So now we have ability to destroy the world just lying around in God knows how many countries' basements. I just, it's like... maybe this is just my simple brain-minded take on, like, what's even the point of still continuing nuclear weaponry to this day? Like, guys... There's nothing positive can come from it. Literally nothing. But, that I could just be, you know, the indomitable human spirit.
Yeah.
Atomic, biological, chemical. The initials of these words make up ABC. The weapons of mass destruction are some called ABC weapons. I'm gonna go into weapons of mass destruction that belong to those three categories. Thank you. ABC, alphabet. In other words, the Alphabet Project must be a code for research into weapons of mass destruction. So I guess Hiromazawa syndrome will fall under B, biological.
本来は日本が核武装をするのが正しいのです。戦後、平和国家として確立し、多大な国際貢献を果たした我が国は常任理事国入りを果たし、核武装をしてこそ初めて一人前の国家として認められる。それこそが戦後日本100年の悲願なのです。
さようです。だが現実には核不拡散条約により核は大国だけが独占、また国内世論は核アレルギーに染まり、内外からの締め付けで実現を不可能にしております。
生物化学兵器は別名貧者の核兵器とも呼ばれる。核を持てない小国はすでに熱心に研究を進めているという話です。
高野さん、誤解しないでくださいよ。この度の研究は最近兵器の保有が目的ではありません。同種の兵器が他国によって国内に持ち込まれる危険性について事前に十分な対処を行うための研究です。自衛のための研究であることを誤解しないようにお願いいたしますよ。
はい、存じております。
Takano's sitting like, Takano hated his Japanese tendency to make excuses, but she didn't let it show in her face. She's like, I don't care, I'm just here to be your god. Value research towards biological weaponry. However, in truth, this wasn't the excuse as well. If they actually wanted to research biological weapons, then it would be just much faster to research diseases like smallpox and anthrax instead of unidentified disease like Kinazawa syndrome. So it wasn't actually correct to say the defense agency was interested in a biological weapon. In other words, Takano needed a powerful sponsor to back her up with funding, personnel, and facility to conduct her research. So she used her connections to turn to old men behind the government and the economy, reaching out to each of them and getting them forcibly pull funding out of the defense agency under the excuse of publication towards biological weaponry. That was the truth. Therefore, the project wasn't officially recognized by the defense agency. To be exact, the people who secretly controlled the defense agency were the ones who knew about it. The masterminds diverted funds from the defense agency to the Alphabet Project, and then they pushed for Takano's research to be a part of it. Takano got us some funding, and the influencers get to drain public funds from the kickbacks. Considering that it was doubtful this project was genuinely interested by researching the next generation of deterrence arms. Probably just an excuse for the masterminds to funnel money into their own pockets. Well, those complicated matters didn't matter to Takako. Whether those men influencers were planning to use her wasn't her business. As long as she get the funding for her research, that was enough. Girl put a lot of time, work, effort, and money into pulling this plan off. Because organizations around too. It's been a grandfather's dream. Takano's always trying to stay calm, but she was about to jump up and down in excitement.
中川君としては今回の件十分に研究が進んだら丸ごと買い取って構わないと言ってくれてる。まだまだ未完の研究だが、その将来性については十分に理解できてるようだ。
おっしゃる通りです。この研究はまだ道半ばで、十分な資金と施設、人材が欠かせません。
それでだね。ここからが交渉になるんだが、向こうとしてはこの研究丸ごと抱えてしまいたいのが希望らしいんだ。こう言っちゃ悪いんだが、君一人に任せるには荷が重いと考えてる。
End up with quite a damper on Takano's ecstasy.
私はお金が欲しくて研究しているのではありません。一人の研究者としての知的探求心からです。私に必要なのはスポンサー。先方が求めるのは成果。そういう関係に期待したかったのですが。
Takano realized she was talking rather breathlessly, so she tried to calm herself down. Either way, they'd be backing their research. Considering they were hoping for results that merit the budget, they probably feel Takano's still too young to handle it.
分かってます分かってます。高野さんが今日まで積み上げてきた研究を横からかっさらわれたんじゃ、それはあんまりですからね。そこは私もよく分かってます。もちろん向こうにもそれは伝えました。それで出てきた折衷案がこれです。
まずアルファベットプロジェクト内の新規事業として高野さんの研究を立ち上げます。理事会の承認を経れば正式に予算をつけることができますからね。高野さんには客員という形でプロジェクトに参加していただき、研究に携わるという形になります。
What if their funding? She had to fall into the 30, of course. So she had no objections.
ただ、研究会は今回の研究に予算をつけるにあたり、いくつかの条件を挙げています。一つは、先ほど先生が申し上げた、この度の研究に関する分野で優秀な才能を持つ人物に研究筆頭を委ねることです。
お言葉を返すようですが、私以上にこの研究に詳しい人物が高野先生を除いて存在するとお思いですか？
まあ、そこは高野さん抑えて。お気持ちはごもっともです。
それではその人物に私が研究を売り渡すのと何も変わらないではありませんか？全く話が違います。
落ち着きなさい、高野さん。
cunning old man didn't miss the sight of the faint leak of anger that crossed Takano's expression. They gave an evasive laugh, marking how mature she was still, and let her emotions sow over such a little thing. However, they weren't laughing to look down on Takano. On the contrary, they were trying to tell her to wait until the end.
もちろん、そこはあなたのやりやすいように手を打ちます。小泉先生からあなたをよろしく頼むと念を押されているんです。大恩ある小泉先生に託されたあなたを私がないがしろにするとお思いですか？大丈夫です。ここは一つ私に任せてください。あなたもそして連中も納得するうまい妥協点を用意します。
と申しますと、
その人物の人選は私が握っているということですよ。
Everyone chortled except for Takano. The moment she joined in, Lindsay would find the right person. The defense agency has suggested finding an expert to lead the project because they feel comfortable with just Takano. However, Takano's sponsor was the one who had asked them to find such a person. That moment Takano realized it. Ah, how wonderful it is to have such a powerful backer. I guess that's the EDA guys roped into this. There's a poor schmuck. Wait, he's a pedophile, never mind. Takano felt better after hearing that. Oh, all the EDA fans are like, so what, he makes some benefit joke, alright? Just ignore it.
What?
And like,
EDA fans.
He has fans, I have been told. And like, I get it.
Yeah, no, probably.
I get it. Like, if I look at the objective, like, serious analyzation of EDA's character, I see it, and I would like him, but I'm sorry. He introduced him, and he was introduced in Chapter 3, and was known to make jokes about wanting to do stuff with underage kids. I'm like... It was just Satsuko, like, that's still weird, but like, okay, maybe. But then he also goes to Keiichi, I'm like, dude... Go away. I can't even tell what's worse, if it was just Satsuko, or if it's Satsuko Keiichi, or if it's just Keiichi. I'm getting off topic. That's the EDA rant. That's how I feel about it.
私などまだ何も。
謙虚なのは実にいいことです。小泉先生もおっしゃっておられましたが、本当に高野さんはいい方ですな。可愛がられているというのもうなずけます。
それでですね、向こうとしては高野さんの身分を防衛庁で預かってしまいたいようです。幸い高野さんは医師免許をお持ちですからね、研究本部の医官として身分を保証するようです。
それは公務員になれということですか？これは意外な話ですね。
アルファベットプロジェクトに携わる研究機関のほとんどは公的機関です。今回の研究は陸自も強い関心を寄せており、職員を陸自から派遣したいと強く要望してきています。ですので場合によっては身分は陸自の扱いになるかもしれません。
まあ、この辺は役人の縄張り争いだと思ってください。
I hate bureaucracy.
たちの上に立つには
I hate it so much.
役人の身分が必要。
Yet I do find interesting stories like this.
もちろん。
Yeah, there's like
I'm glad to learn how Takano established his massive web of red tape, bureaucracy, and politics. You know, as much as they like to overyap, you know, you get to see every step. And you...
Overyapping is what government does. It's a, you know, it makes sense.
And I had a history lesson today, so you know what? That was kind of neat.
それは仕方ありますまいな。戦況が悪化していた日本軍が求めていたのは即効性があり、瞬時に戦局をひっくり返せるものだったのでしょう。決して高野先生の研究を見下していたわけではないはずです。
That wasn't true, of course. Takano already had the confession with the old man. She exhaled. It was meaning for what was happening somewhere far away. She had longed for the day to come and worked so hard to reach it. Finally, her grandfather and research were attaining recognition. This was the day she had dreamed of. So she was frightened just imagining that it might be an actual dream. True joy can't be felt all at once. Often this is delayed reaction. Takano thought it might just be exactly what she was feeling.
すると思います。多分左官クラスの階級が与えられるのではないでしょうか。となると高野さんは副隊長の地位になりますから、おそらく3差ではないかと。
これは素晴らしい。高野3差ですか。いやいや、羨ましいですな。男に生まれたからには一度くらいは自分のことを階級で呼ばれてみたいものですが、いやはやいやはや、高野3差ですか。うんうん。
3差何ですか？
Major!
ああ、
What is
自衛
that?
隊の階級のことで3等
I don't know the ranking of the self-defense force off the top of my head.
副部長くらいでしょうね。おそ
Sub
ら
manager
く
of
そ
a
の階級
company.
がプロジェクト発足時に高野さんに与えられることになるかと思います。
旧日本軍でいうところの少佐ですよ。そういえば奇遇ですな。高野先生も旧軍では少佐の階級にあられたそうではありませんか。
Takano remembers suddenly. They were right. Grandfather had been lieutenant commander in the Japanese military. Everything she had done until today was so she could continue grandfather's research. Now everything had fallen into place. She had even granted the same rank as her grandfather. She had always believed that succeeding his research would be proof that they had a tighter bond than blood. Now she would be the same
Blonde.
rank as him. Shut up. She is blonde. This is fate, Takano thought. Maybe this is even a
Better
message.
blonde.
Grandpa.
Yeah.
Yes, it must have been a shout of encouragement from heaven. It's proof that she had inherited not only his research, but as well. Takano could help but feel a sense of destiny for attacking the rank of major.
おじいちゃん、私ようやくここまで来たよ。
Nobody else could hear her say that. But her grandfather in heaven could. That's what Takano believed. She only had come so far. There was still a lot of things to do for this research to be recognized as great work. Otherwise, her grandfather won't become a god. She wouldn't become one either. He must become a god. That was her grandfather as well. Was able to do so, that line preceded it. It's her grandfather's dying wish. Grandfather trusted it to her. All of his research. The god can't be physically brought back to life. God is made from the hearts of people who remain alive. Grandfather will live on in her heart. Exploits will be known many, and the scholars will fight to the end to read his documents. To steal from each other. And they will learn about Hifumi Takano, who began his research during the war. They will know nobody understood him, and that he ended up devoting his lonely life to his research. And finally, they will exalt his grand achievement. Weight of history. Got one step closer. Oh, the achievement is the old Japanese flag with the rising sun. Yeah, well, I guess this episode's not making it to Korea. That's actually probably a tasteless. It's probably a tasteless joke, AJ. Any last words, Griffin?
So who was in the right?
America! Fuck yeah!
Tell me before to say the motherfucking day, yeah.
America!